It's camera, action.
Hello. Okay, so I can see that our numbers are climbing as folks join. We'll get started in just a moment. And I'm just going to put myself on camera as folks join, and then we'll switch back over to the PowerPoint. I can see that folks are just joining. We'll give all of your fellow new Griffins a chance to click the link because I can see that folks are still joining. Welcome if you've already joined. And if you're already joined and you have a question off the top of your head, you're welcome to already ask it, or you can wait. It's completely up to you. We're just going to give other students a chance to join the session. Take some folks a couple moments to get in. Awesome. Welcome to everyone who's joined so far. We're going to get started in just a moment. I'm just going to wait for our numbers just to even off from folks joining. And I see that our numbers are evening off for folks joining. So why don't we just get started? Welcome to Start on Campus, Living in Community, for the breakout session of Off Campus and Commuting. I am Andrea, a part of the START team who is helping you prepare the summer for starting in fall 2021. I want to begin with a land acknowledgement. The University of Guelph resides on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. It is recognized that the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples have long-standing and ongoing relationships with this land. This is a gathering place where we work and learn and is home to many past, present, and future First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. It is important to recognize the lands of Indigenous peoples locally, across Turtle Island, and around the world. We acknowledge the land because we have a collective responsibility to this place and its people's histories, rights, and presence. We are so excited to welcome you to Start on Campus today because we are excited to welcome you to the Griffin community. You are welcome to ask any questions you have on your mind in the Q&A chat live. If you have any questions this summer and don't know who to ask, you could always email us at start@uguelph.ca. Today, you're going to hear from me and from Charlotte and Paige, who are upper year students who have lived off campus as well. So let's jump into things. I'll hop back over to my PowerPoint and we'll get started. Perfect. So first and foremost, what is off-campus living and what are we going to be talking about today? So what I have on my list just to cover for today, we're going to talk about what off-campus living is, where to look for listings, where students live in Guelph, average prices for rentals, what to expect at a showing, what you need to know about signing a lease, and knowing your rights as a tenant. We're also going to talk about community and what to expect from an upper year student perspective. So off-campus living is broken down into two streams. There is all the administrative and rental resources side. For example, we have rental living resource peer helpers who are there to provide rental and tenant consultations, information about living off campus. OCL does lease reviews, tenant advising, can help you find a place to live off campus. And I just put the email right in there, ocl@uguelph.ca. And then the other side is the social side. So we have commuter engagement peer helpers who are here to help commuter students feel more engaged and find a sense of belonging on campus. When we say commuter, we really mean anyone who's not living on campus. So if you consider yourself to be living off campus or commuting to the University of Guelph, We run events and activities all year long to build community for you, offer learning and social opportunities for commuters outside the classroom. And if you just want to be added to the mailing list, you can join by emailing commuter@uofguelph.ca. So let's jump into things and talk about where to look for listings. So we do have a couple listing services that are great places to start. We've placed the listing services on here in intentional order. If you're wondering what a listing service is, it just means a place where people post places that are available for rent for students and many other folks. So we have placesforstudents.com and rentpanda.ca, which we consider the safest because we know that they are vetted by humans. There are additional options such as the canon.ca, the University of Guelph off-campus rentals and sublets Facebook group, and Kijiji, but because they are not vetted by what gets posted, it is up to you to be more careful about, for example, maybe scams. A lot of students ask this question about where do students live? And what we mean by that is if you choose to live off campus, where are students tending to live in the Guelph community? So in Guelph, we don't have a very specific housing area, like you may have heard about at other universities. Many neighborhoods close to the University of Guelph, but spread out. So when you're looking at listings, a lot of students look for keywords. So for example, Old University is very walkable. Gordon, College, Scottsdale, etc. They're very popular streets for students, but there isn't one neighborhood where all students tend to live. The university is about one bus to downtown, but when you're looking at rentals or options for rentals, we really recommend putting that rental address into Google Maps, then the university into Google Maps, and clicking transit. That's really helpful to know how close it really is by public transportation. So something might look closer than a different option, but perhaps the public transportation to actually get to the university is quicker in comparison. For types of housing, the majority of Guelph housing is in private homes. So in maybe Waterloo, for example, where Laura University and the University of Waterloo are located, there's a lot of purpose-built housing, meaning it's owned by a company and they rent all the units to students. There's not a lot of purpose-built housing for students in Guelph. So condos or condominiums are really popular among students in Guelph, but condominiums in Guelph are not purpose-built for students. Most rentals are in private homes. So it's most common for, and what you'll hear from a lot of upper students, is to rent a house with other students than it is to rent an apartment or a condo. There are 2 purpose-built housings available for students who are living off campus, and those are the Solstice buildings in Edinburgh Village on Chancellor's Way. But you will find that the majority of housing available for rent is in those private homes. Let's chat about average prices because this is also a huge frequently asked question that we have. So currently in Guelph, and these prices are quite up to date. We find that the average price for a room in a shared house, so for example, say you are looking to rent with some other students, by like bedroom, we find that the average price is between $550 to $650. $550 is rarer, but it's not a red flag. Anything lower than $550 that you're finding available for rent, you would really want to ask questions to the person who's renting that, why it is so low. It could be a good thing and you could be really lucky, but it could be a reason why it's advertised that low. It's really good to ask those follow-up questions. We find that $650 is more the average than the upper amount right now in Guelph. So just $550 to $650 gives you a good idea of what the average is. I would say that the upper amount is not $650. It's actually much higher than that. But you can find places for between $550 to $650 per room. If you're looking for a 1-bedroom, maybe a basement apartment in a private home, you're going to be looking at prices above $1,100. We find that on average for a 3-bedroom house in the Guelph area, you're looking between $2,000 to $2,500. $2,000 really is the rare lower end range, but it is still available. So we like to just put that lower range just so you know what a normal range is. And when you're looking at prices, there's also variance depending on whether utilities are included or not. So when you look at that price, asking yourself if utilities are included or whether your landlord will be paying for them, because it's a really good idea to figure out how much you're actually going to be paying for, but also if you're in charge of utilities and paying them for yourself, you need to set those up. So when we say utilities, if utilities are included, your landlord will pay for them. If not, you're probably looking at paying for the utilities yourself. When we say utilities, most homes are heated by natural gas, oil, or electricity, but in Ontario, it is commonly called the word hydro. The average hydro bill for a typical 3-bedroom home in Guelph is usually between $125 to $200 a month. Make sure, if it is not outlined in your agreement, that you write up a separate agreement with your roommates on how you plan on splitting this bill every single month. And then on top of that, most students, of course, internet is an important utility, and that is something that you're going to have to set up for yourself. Okay, let's chat about showings. So when I say showing, what I mean by that is a landlord inviting you or giving you the opportunity to take a look at the place you would be interested in renting and having a conversation with the landlord about the price and everything else. Essentially, a lot of landlords use showings as a way to get an indication of what you would be like as a renter. So we actually really encourage you to take them very seriously. If you treat it casual, a landlord may read the situation or the way that you're presenting yourself differently. You want to show that you would pay, be respectful of their house, etc. So we actually encourage you to treat it like you would an interview. Dress well, present yourself well, expect a rental application. For example, a reference or a guarantor will often be needed. So think of who those people are early, even sometimes before you would arrive at a showing. We know that landlords will want you to sign right away because they're enthusiastic about getting their place rented. But leases are a binding agreement and not easy to get out of. So don't come from a mindset of sign now, figure out later, because you'll be stuck in a legal agreement. So make sure that you want to sign, even if it means that you take some time to review the agreement, and OCL can help with that. I really want to also share that it's not uncommon for a landlord to ask for your SIN number, but you do not need to give your SIN number even if asked. So even if an application has that on the application, you can leave that part blank. If they ask you or pressure you into asking for your SIN number, ask why while being respectful. But other things that are really common are asking for a former landlord's name. That's really regular and common. And it's also common to be asked for a guarantor or a reference. So a guarantor is a co-signer, basically someone who would pay your rent for you should you can't. And that's really common for students because most don't have full-time jobs or guaranteed income. And so that might be something that's asked. If you aren't sure about whether something is normal during a showing or something isn't normal on a lease, you can always talk to Off-Campus Living. They're happy to have you at ocl.guelph.ca. And now I'm going to pass it off to Charlotte to talk about transportation.
All right, thank you, Andrea. So for transportation, there are a few different ways that you can get around Guelph. The first option is Guelph Transit. So if you know that you'll be busing often, you can look into getting a post-secondary semester bus pass. This pass is valid from late August to the end of December. It will cost $272 and it can be used unlimited times in this time frame. This year, we do not have a bus pass as part of our tuition, So that is important to know that you will not automatically get one and you'll have to actively seek one out if you want it. If you only want to have a bus pass for maybe 1 or 2 months, since you're not sure how often you'll be in Guelph, you can also just get a monthly pass for $80, and that's good for an entire month. Or if you're just planning the occasional trip, you can choose to pay $3 in cash, and that will get you from point A to B, and you also get a transfer with that. If you're planning to drive to campus or have your car on campus for any reason, you'll need to be aware of the parking regulations. Starting September 1st, all of the parking lots at U of G will either be designated black, red, or yellow, and this has to do with the new permit system. In order to park in a black lot, you would need a black permit, same with red lot or yellow lot. Permits can be purchased at any time, and they can either be for the whole year, 1 semester, or for just 1 month. It's also important to note that campus will no longer be accepting cash if you want to pay for your spot. So you will need to either pay with the Pay by Phone app if you are not planning on purchasing a permit for yourself. And then if you are planning to commute to Guelph, you can do so either by car or public transit. So as I just mentioned, if you're planning to travel by car, it's important to check out the resources for parking. Since this is new this year, they have changed how parking works. So you can find that on the U of Guelph website, and it has all the information on getting a permit. If you are planning to travel using public transportation, you can check out various schedules and routes using the website TripLinks, which is linked here. This website can provide you with estimated times and costs for your trips and is a great way to plan out how you will get to campus each day. I will pass it back over to Andrea to go over some information about the lease.
Perfect, thank you so much. So considering that with all that information, at that point, you may have likely decided on a location. So for example, figuring out whether your transportation is doable from where you are looking at for rentals, whether that is public transportation or planning on bringing a vehicle and parking at the University of Guelph. And so at this point in the process, you would likely have come across your lease. So if you agreed to rent a place with a landlord, they would have provided you with a lease. So a lease is a legal document that is binding between you, the renter, whoever else you are renting with, and the landlord. So there is a standard lease. And what I mean by standard lease is a lease made by the government. So I will show you an example of what that looks like. It looks like this, and it has the Ontario government sign at the top, and it says Residential Tenancy Agreement Standard Format of Lease. It is a standard lease, meaning that it looks the same. The standard lease was created by the Ontario government in 2018. It protects tenants, so renters, by helping them know their rights. It also protects landlords by ensuring their contract is legal under the Residential Tenancies Act. If your landlord does not give you the standard lease, you can request a copy of that. A landlord can add an appendix to the lease, or like a section at the end of the lease, which is an agreement between you and the landlord. That means it is something in addition to the lease that you're signing. If there is something that doesn't meet the Residential Tenancies Act in the appendix, the Residential Tenancy Act supersedes that. So for example, a landlord could write in the appendix that they don't want any pets or no guests or overnight. But this is your home that you are renting and paying for, and the Residential Tenancies Act protects you. So you can live in that home as long as what you're doing is legal. So yes, you are allowed to have guests or overnight guests or pets, even if the landlord puts that appendix in the lease. So the Residential Tenancies Act supersedes anything in the appendix. It's what is put in the appendix doesn't meet the RTA. If you have any questions about that, or you want help with lease review, or just double checking that everything is okay, off-campus living exists for that reason. So you can touch base with them by emailing them at ocl@uofguelph.ca and chatting with someone about what your lease looks like and whether that everything is fine and dandy in there. So don't hesitate to reach out. Okay, let's chat about selecting roommates.
All right, so if you have decided that you're going to rent a place in Guelph, chances are you'll probably need some roommates. So when connecting with potential housemates, there are some very important topics to think about and to discuss with these people. So the first thing you want to consider is how you're going to get along with the people or person that you are signing a lease with. So you want to ensure that you're able to get along with them because you will ultimately be living with this person or people. Consider questions like, what do we have in common? Do we enjoy each other's company? Are we easy to get along with? And do we enjoy similar things? Next, think about how you would resolve potential conflicts with this person or people. Discuss your boundaries and try to proactively prepare for issues. Consider questions like, what boundaries do we have? Will they respect my boundaries? Can I be open and honest with this person? And how will we resolve conflicts should they arise? Also consider your different lifestyles. You want to ensure that you're compatible with the people you are living with. Ask questions like, will we have similar schedules, such as sleeping and going to school? Does one of us party more than the other? Does one of us smoke or drink more than the other? Are we comfortable with living with people who party, smoke, or drink? How many people do we want to share a rental space with? These are all important questions about lifestyle that you want to consider before signing a lease with people. Lastly, you want to think about and discuss your own safety. You will be sharing a home with whoever you choose to live with, and you should always feel safe in that home. Consider questions like, do I feel safe with this person? Do either of us have any allergies that the other should be aware of? Am I okay with pets, or will our pets get along? Do we agree on how to navigate COVID-19? These are all very important topics that can be slightly difficult to discuss. OCL has created a roommate relationship guide, which is a great way to help prepare for these conversations and really get to know the people that you'll be living with.
Awesome, thanks, Charlotte. So I'm going to flip over to Off-Campus Living is here for you. And the first part that we want to chat about is actually our orientation events, which I know that Charlotte is really excited to share about.
Yes, so I am part of orientation and I'm very excited for these events coming up. So one of the first ones that we will have is our off-campus kickoff for off-campus students. So this includes anyone who's not living in residence and or commuting. This is just a great way to start off orientation week and get to know some people. We'll also be having a pep rally near the beginning or middle of O week, sorry. And this, again, is for off-campus students who get to meet each other, dance, hang out, just have a great time. We also have an organization called the Off-Campus University Students, or OCUS, and they will be hosting several different events throughout the week. So we encourage you to check out Guelph Life in late August to see the full schedule of events. And this will include events for off-campus students as well as just students in general.
Awesome, thank you. And so I know I shared a lot about what off-campus living does for you and how they're here for you, but I just want to reiterate some of the services that are available so that you know that you can reach out and access these. So as a reminder, off-campus living can review your lease before you sign. They can ask questions or support you in answering your questions. Anything to do with renting in Guelph or commuting to Guelph, they're so happy to connect. They can answer any questions about the rental process, period, and they can help you find community through events and connections. I wanted to also just jump in and to share something that is available to you, and you're automatically enrolled and included in as an off-campus or commuting student, which is Griffin's Nest. Currently, as of this moment, there are about 1,500 students planning on not living. They are planning on living off campus or commuting to U of G this fall. And so we have a program called Griffin's Nest that is a community that you are added to help create the same sense of community and connection that we provide for all of our incoming students. One of the ways that we provide community is through Griffin's Nest. So you are grouped by academic program and you'll have an upper year student or an online community mentor that is available as a mentor and point person for questions, concerns, and connection. They check in one-on-one for support, and they support your connections with other students and campus involvement. You can check your email for more information throughout the summer. As we get closer to September, You'll find out what Griffin's Nest community you are in and how to connect with everyone in your community. And then Charlotte, I know that you've already had some questions in the chat about eating on campus and the meal plan, so I'm just going to hand it back over to you to talk about eating on campus.
For sure. So just because you're not living in residence doesn't mean you won't have an awesome campus experience, and one of the huge aspects of that is all the great food that Guelph has. So Guelph has a meal plan specifically for those living off campus or those who have access to cooking facilities, and this is called the Ultra Meal Plan. So this is a meal plan that is completely optional, but highly recommended for anyone who plans on eating on campus semi-regularly. This meal plan allows you to save 10% on all of your food purchases, and you are not required to pay HST tax when you use the Ultra Meal Plan card. You can top this card up at any time, and there is also no rollover fees, which is great because maybe you expected you would spend a lot more, and now you have all this extra on your card, but you can still use it the next year, and there's no cost at all. So the Ultra Meal Plan is a great option if you plan on eating on campus occasionally versus a full meal plan, which is intended for students who are unable to cook their own meals due to living in residence. While on campus, you will find out that U of G has a ton of different food options, and it will provide basically anything you need, whether it's just a quick refuel between classes or a full meal to start your day. On this map here, you can see some of the restaurants outlined. You can also find this on the hospitality website. If you do have any dietary restrictions, Guelph is able to accommodate for that and still give you a delicious meal. Some of the most common accommodations that we already cater to are vegetarian, vegan, lactose-free, nut-free, gluten-free, kosher, and halal meals. Currently, we do not know what the fall 2021 hours of operation will be, but we figure that will be released soon, and we are expecting that most places will be open during your regular class hours.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Charlotte. And now we're going to hop to hearing upper year student perspectives from Paige and Charlotte, because I know that they would love to share their experiences.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrea and Charlotte. Hi, everyone. My name's Paige. I use she and her pronouns, and I'll be going into my last year of marketing management co-op. So being in co-op, I've had many semesters of either having to study on campus or be working in a different location. So I have moved multiple times and lived off campus during my undergrad. I did live in residence during my first year, but then made a few friends and signed a lease for a 4-bedroom townhouse near the south end of town off Gordon Street, which is one of the main streets by the university, which Andrea mentioned earlier. And then once I was just there for 1 year, and afterwards I moved home for an 8-month period where I commuted to my co-op role. And then I've been subletting places ever since. So subletting is basically taking over somebody's lease for a short period of time. So usually my co-op terms are either 4 or 8 months. So I'm only studying on campus for 4 or 8 months at a time. So I usually will sign someone's lease and live in different spots of the city. So there's lots of options for you when you're finding a off-campus house, or if you're commuting. You don't need to stay in one spot your entire undergrad. You can move wherever you like, find different roommates, and it's honestly just your experience that you get to take the most advantage of. But I would love to send it to Charlotte so that she can share her experience as well.
Thank you so much, Paige. So like Paige, I have lived off campus for quite a while now, and I've had the chance to live in the south end suburbs of Guelph, as well as the downtown core. For both of these locations, I utilized Guelph's bus system whenever I needed to get to campus. Sometimes the bus can get very full during peak times, so it's always good to plan extra time for travel into your schedule. Always plan to arrive early on campus and possibly get home a little bit late. Due to COVID and roommates changing their minds, I've mostly lived with strangers and myself for most of my off-campus experience. Living with strangers can sound very scary, especially if this is your first time from home. So my best advice is to follow the information that I provided earlier and really get to know your roommates before moving in together. By doing this, complete strangers can become great friends and awesome housemates. If you are living alone, I strongly encourage you to also plan social time into your schedule. It's very easy to stay home, do your studies, and lose contact with other people. Don't let this happen. Make an effort to see your friends on campus or elsewhere to help upkeep your social life. Guelph has a ton of great activities if you want something to do with your friends. That is it from my experience. I'll pass it back off to Andrea to wrap this up.
Thanks so much, Charlotte and Paige. Okay, so I've posted as an announcement that if you have anything else that comes to mind, we're going to hang out here and continue answering questions in the chat until they are all answered. But if you have any questions after the session, Off-Campus Living would be so happy to connect, and their email is ocl@uguelph.ca. You're just going to see me hang out here and make sure that all the questions are answered. If you have any questions that have come to mind about something maybe that we didn't talk about or something that you want a little bit more clarity on, don't hesitate to ask it, even if it feels completely unrelated. That's why we're here. We're the START team. We're just here to answer all your questions. Past that, I just wanted to thank you for joining. And if you have any questions whatsoever after the session, do not hesitate to email the START team at start@uguelph.ca. We exist to make sure that you feel prepared for September. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers. All right, so it looks like we have gotten through all the questions except for one, which is just being answered in this moment right now. So I will say that we're going to wrap up the event. I'm glad that we were able to get through all of your questions. If you have anything else that comes to mind, even in 5 minutes from now that you just didn't think of during the event, don't hesitate to email the START team at start@uguelph.ca, or you can email off-campus living at ocl@uguelph.ca, and we will be delighted to answer your questions. In the meantime, I look forward to seeing you next week for our Start on Campus about finances. Take care.